We are just days away from the 2025-2026 IFAB Laws of the Game changes from going into effect. That's right, they go into effect on July 1st, and even though we've been seeing specific competitions already employing them, it's now going to be up to the rest of us to be prepared to enforce the laws that the professional referees that we're watching at the Gold Cup or the Club World Cup have been enforcing. Let's run through the U.S. soccer guidance for these law changes, and we're going to focus on the four important ones that I feel like we're going to see with more frequency than probably any of the others. Let's jump in and let's learn. So this is available on U.S. Soccer's YouTube page. It's also going to be a link down below in the description of this page so that you're going to be able to find and see exactly this entire presentation, because I'm going to try and go through it and explain it in perhaps some more normal terms, but remember to always apply the laws of the game language when we're talking about reports and so forth, right? I'm going to try and explain it in a way that is going to make sense so that when you can kind of comprehend it and when you can understand the change, you're going to know exactly why it's there, and then you can use the law language to apply to any reports or anything like that. So let's jump in. The four big changes are going to be around the only the captain rule, the dropped ball, the 8-second goalkeeper control, and ball in play. Let's just get through these so that you guys can learn. So only the captain is going to be for those moments where there is key decisions and, perhaps potentially controversial decisions or decisions that players are not going to agree with. And the idea behind this is to hopefully improve overall team behavior. All right. This is not a law change. This is additional text now to the law that establishes the captain-only zone and how this is going to function. So again, all of this is designed to prevent mobbing of referees during those key decisions. It is not going to be one of those things that is going to say no player at no time can ever talk to the referee. Normal interactions can still happen. In fact, they're really important to still happen so that you gain trust and transparency. But when those big moments happen and you have 3, 4, 5 players approaching you to get information from you, this is a tool that we can use in order to regain control so that we are able to have a better explanation to the captain for our decision. So how are we going to apply the only the captain zone? First, it's going to be important to understand that not every league or game will have this. So check with your assigner and ensure that the league or the competition, whether it's a tournament, whether it's a league, whether it's regional play, etc., is going to be allowing this in the first place. So if it is allowed, how are we going to be applying the captain-only zone? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You blow your whistle, you've got a decision to make, you step back, you put your arms up above your head, and you're going to cross your wrists, right? After you do that, you lower them, and you kind of do a pushing motion, palms out and forward in front of you, indicating to the players that they need to back up at least 4 meters or 4 yards. And this is going to tell them that it's time for them to back up and that this is the captain-only zone. It's going to be critical to get the captain's buy-in, to have them help and get their teammates back so that as the referee, you can quickly and succinctly explain the decision and then move on with the restart, right? So we want to get the ball back in play as quickly as possible, but we obviously also want to be able to let the captain do their job and communicate what that decision is. Once we signal for that zone, all players except for the captain have to back away at least 4 yards. The captain, like I said, has some responsibility to encourage their teammates to comply with the zone. Any player that enters the zone is going to be subject to a caution for dissent. If more than one player enters, because we know that that's what's going to happen in the earliest stages of this, pick one player, make them the example. They're the first player, they're the most aggressive player. You'll be able to show them the caution, and it'll show hopefully everybody else that they're going to have a very similar fate if they do not get the message of being able to back up the 4 yards and let you do your job and explain the decision to the captain, right? If you need to caution more than one player, use your best judgment, and you should include this on your match reports. Identifying the captain, usually done through the armband. We know that. At lower levels, captains are going to change. You'll have 5 captains come up, especially at, little kid divisions. And players get subbed in and out, players get sent off, etc. Just make sure that there's always a captain and that they are identified so that when this happens, you are able to go through and enforce the captain-only zone. Next, let's cover the dropped ball change. And this is one that I think has been needed for a little while, ever since the uncontested drop ball language came into effect. So the reason for this change is simply because there are times where the referee did not have discretion and that we had to drop the ball to the player that was last touched, even though it looked and appeared as if there was going to be a change to the game or a change in possession just before the stoppage or something of that nature. We now have that subjectivity and we now have that flexibility based on the language in the laws of the game. Let's go into this deeper, right? Now, the law is if when play was stopped, the ball was inside the penalty area, the referee drops it for the defending team goalkeeper in their penalty area. That has not changed. If the ball is inside the penalty area and there's a stoppage for any reason where a dropped ball restart is called for, it does not go to whomever touched it last or anything. It automatically gets dropped to the goalkeeper. That has not changed. It's this next part that is changing. The ball was outside the penalty area. The referee drops it for one player of the team that has or would have gained possession if this can be determined by the referee. Otherwise, it is dropped for one player of the team that last touched it. The ball is dropped at its position when play was stopped. So there are times when if a player goes down injured and it careens around and it's going to an opponent, but we stop play for the injury and it's clear that that new team would have been getting possession, we now have the flexibility to go ahead and award them that possession with the drop ball. The other big change of this is that it is not where the player last touched it, it is now where the ball was when it stopped. Another difference. This is probably the best flow chart for this that I've seen. If it's inside the penalty area, it goes to the defending team goalkeeper in the penalty area. That's cut and dry, real simple. That's the way it's been. Outside the penalty area, if it's clear that the team had or would have had possession, they are now going to get that possession back. So we drop the ball to one player of that team. and we have the location of the ball when play was stopped. Outside the penalty area, and we don't have an indication of clear possession, or we don't have an indication of who would have gained possession, we are now defaulting back to the law where it said it's just the team that last touched the ball, and it's wherever the ball was when we stop it. That one's very short, very simple. And now we have the biggest change for us as referees, and that is going to be the 8-second goalkeeper control. So we've known this was a problem for a long time, and we were waiting for it to get fixed in a way that made sense. 8 seconds is still pretty quick, but it is still a better solution than the previous method that was basically being ignored because of the expectation of the game, the punishment fitting the crime, etc. So, and there's obviously many reasons for this. Goalkeeper's team is winning. They're gonna try and delay that ball being in play. They're gonna hold on to it. They're gonna bounce it. They're gonna go from one side of the penalty area to the other side and then back again. All of this in the hopes that the referee is not keeping an eye on the watch, not keeping an eye on the time that they're controlling the ball, and 9 times out of 10 they didn't. So we are looking at this as a way for us to reduce time wasting by goalkeepers and promoting the ball being in play, and just to experience the and just to enhance the overall experience for, it says spectators here, but for everybody in the game. The game is awfully boring for other players when the only thing that they're doing is a goalkeeper running back and forth in their penalty area, bouncing the ball, and kind of messing around with it. So the law is changed. It's right here. It's too long. I am not going to read this to you because you guys can look at this and read it yourself. But the crux is it defines what control is, and it defines a corner kick is awarded from if a goalkeeper inside their penalty area controls the ball for more than 8 seconds before releasing it. Gives the definition of control. Balls between their hands or their body, the ground, any surface. Holding the ball in the outstretched hand like this, or bouncing it, or throwing it up in the air. That's all goalkeeper control for the 8-second rule. The referee will decide that when the goalkeeper has control of the ball, the 8 seconds will begin, and you will visibly count down the last 5 seconds with a raised hand, right? So, goalkeeper makes a diving save, they've got it in their hands. Now, are we going to be so strict that the second they're on the ground and they've got it in their hands, or they're catching it in the air, and do we start that count then? No, we're not going to do that. But we're also not going to let them lay on the ground. We're not going to let them kind of do that whole song and dance that got us into this mess in the first place. They get control. They make the save. The opportunity is to let's get back up and let's get the ball back in play. And that is what is there to, that's what this rule is there to encourage, right? So, we as referees just need to determine when they have control, when do we start the count, right? Once they have clear control, we have that 8 seconds. The final 5 seconds is the public countdown, serving as a warning to the goalkeeper that you are in fact paying attention, and that if the goalkeeper exceeds that time limit, we blow the whistle again and we award the corner kick, right? So it keeps it very nice, very easy, very, 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 very succinct. So countdown begins when the goalkeeper has clear control of the ball and is able to restart play. So if they're dive, it's in their hands, they're on the ground, and are they able to restart play from there? Probably not. We're probably going to want to have some common sense, and if they're up back on their feet quickly, now we're counting in our head, 8, 7, 6, put the hand up, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, right? At that point, If it's a routine, simple save or anything like that, countdown starts immediately. If it's a difficulty diving save, countdown is delayed. Confirm that they have the ball, right? Make sure, I'm going to say, and the way this, I kind of understand and interpret this, we delay the countdown until they have clear control of the ball, right? It's not between their chest and the ground. They're not laying on the ground outstretched and everything. We want to be able to go ahead and look at this in terms of prevention. Be there, be communicative, warn the goalkeeper to get up and get on with play. If you communicate this early during the team check-ins, even during the coin toss, talk to the captain about this, talk to the goalkeepers, pull them into the conversation and say, hey, listen, we have the 8-second rule now. Once I determine you have clear control, the options are that you get rid of the ball within the 8 seconds, or I have to blow the whistle for a corner kick. Let's not push that, right? Be present. Make sure the goalkeeper can see you and make sure that they know that you are aware and you're watching and you're counting, right? Be practical and consider whether it's a tactical delay of time or if it's something where you know that maybe they're down and they're hurt or they're injured and maybe it's not a serious injury. Maybe use your game knowledge, use your game understanding, and you'll be able to discern when they're not being genuine with their delay in play. And that's when you just have your countdown then at that point. If they're laying on the ground and they don't appear injured or it was a routine save and they've got clear control of the ball, we can count 8, 7, 6. Maybe at that point it's best to say, keeper, you have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can give them that. Be communicative, be proactive, be present, and use your football understanding, use your soccer understanding, and make sure that you can tell between the difference between, say, a tactical sort of delay to the game, or if this is indeed something where they've just landed wrong on the ball or something like that. We still need to exercise a little bit of common sense. All right. So, and again, for the 8-second rule, once the keeper has clear control, the visual countdown begins after those first 3 seconds. Use the time to get into position so that we can see where the distribution is and that the goalkeeper can see us as well. Final 5 seconds, raise your hand and give a visual countdown. Make sure that you're kind of making it visual to them, right? So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once one's down, blow the whistle, point to the corner. So the other question that's going to come about a lot is going to be impeding or preventing the goalkeeper's release. And this is going to happen, and it's not going to affect the overall countdown, right? If we're able to, we already have the restart for this, and that is an indirect free kick. If it's preventing the release, or if they attempt to kick the ball when the goalkeeper's in the process of releasing the ball back into play. In this situation, the attacker is responsible for the delay, not the goalkeeper. So we're not going to punish the goalkeeper by, if they can't release the ball, then, and the 8 seconds is up, it defeats the whole purpose, right? So we're going to make sure that we're not punishing the goalkeeper if an attacking team member is the one who's causing this delay. All right. Now, can the corner kick as a result of the 8-second violation be taken quickly? As with all restarts, the attacking team will have the ability to take the call quickly as long as all the requirements for the restart are met, right? Ball is stationary, it's placed properly, and there's only one ball on the field. delaying the corner kick deliberately will result in a yellow card for delaying the restart. Everything else is status quo. It's as the laws allow for already. So don't overthink it. Let the law be the law. We know what they are. We know what they understanding, right? Now, the last change is to ball in play. And I feel like this is another bit of common sense that has come into the game. And it's more about when there is a tactical reason for a substitute touching the ball that's in play, or coming onto the field and touching the ball. Maybe it's just before it's gone out or anything like that. And in the past, we have very little wiggle room. We were showing cautions, we were showing send-offs, and it's one of those moments where it's rare, but it does happen, and we don't necessarily need it to be as excessive a punishment as a send-off or anything else, right? So the law has been modified when a coach or a player or a substitute who's off the field for injury or for any other reason touches the ball as it's going out, but before it has gone completely out. So this law is there because there are going to be times when a coach, a substituted player, a player who's temporarily off the pitch, they're trying to get that ball back into play as quickly as possible, but they don't realize that they didn't actually let the ball leave the field of play, right? And in such cases, an indirect free kick is going to be awarded now, and there's not going to be any disciplinary sanction unless the sanction is to be for a persistent infringement of leaving the technical area and so forth. So again, the key concept here is that this is an honest mistake versus a deliberate attempt to interrupt play. This is a punishment fitting the crime. And that's where we just give the indirect free kick. We don't have we don't have misconduct. We don't have a sanction or anything like that. We don't need to worry about that, especially when, it's an honest mistake and it's clear that the coach or the individual or the player just simply thought the ball was out and wanted to get on with the game. So that's it. That is all 4 of our law changes. We have only the captain, which is only going to apply in certain competitions, certain tournaments, certain cases. So understand and know how that works. We have our drop ball, Law 8, where we are going to have some common sense where we don't always have to go back to the player that's touched it, but we can go back to the player that would have gained possession if we're able to figure that out. We have probably the biggest change to the laws in a very long time in the 8-second rule, where if they control the ball longer than 8 seconds, we can now award a corner. And there's obviously a lot of caveats around when the count starts and when not. So use common sense, use understanding of the game, and make sure that we're utilizing this appropriately, right? It's a big change. We've already seen it applied in the Club World Cup this summer, and it's one of those things that I have a feeling you're going to have to call it once, maybe twice. You're going to have it a handful of times per season. You'll have it like once a game, and then for the rest of that game, you're not going to have it again, right? And then finally, we have the ball in play, where we no longer have a sanction if a player off the field of play makes an honest attempt to get that ball back in play, but not letting it leave play. There's no misconduct. There's no sanction or anything else like that. So these are the 4 big law changes. There are some more. If you want to check out the IFAB.com, they have all of the changes in full on their website, and you're also going to be able to see many of the other ones in that. There's also some very helpful videos embedded into that slideshow that I didn't show today that you are going to be able to look at on your own time, and I will link the slideshow presentation from US Soccer in the comment section down below. Not gonna lie, these are some big law changes. That 8-second rule is going to be something to get used to when you're back out on the pitch after this summer. You're going to have to be paying attention to different things, right? We cannot use those few seconds when the goalkeeper has the ball to kind of reset. We're going to have to be plugged in still, right? And those are going to be the moments that I think are going to make the biggest difference and present the biggest challenge. We want to be able to be consistent, and we want to be able to have a good experience and give the teams and the players and the spectators and the fans and the coaches a great experience and let the games flow better with these law changes. So I hope this is helpful, and if you guys have any questions, let's hear them. Drop them in the comments below, and I look forward to engaging on this. And really, if there's still any more questions around what these law changes mean, any particular weird scenario you can think of or have seen in the past, let me know, and maybe we can do another video on that one too. Until then, I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Good luck out on the pitch. All the best.